both the president and Roosevelt would talk a lot about what went on. He would say every time one gives in to his ambitions become greater and he wants more. And I think the president felt that in the end, the war was unavoidable.
But Roosevelt's hands had been tied by Congress and a cautious public.
진짜. 여보, 오늘 정말 끝내줬어.
영웅, 나나미를 사용한 덕분이지.
나나미? 가장 강한 여고생 나나미 말이야? 어떻게 얻은 거야?
무사의 검으로 주변 좀비들을 소탕하고 생존자를 구조해 2천만 전투력의 근거지를 건설했어. 지금 스테이트 오브 서바이벌에서 7일 동안 출석만 하면 전설 영웅 나나미, 캔디, 강은주를 주는 이벤트가 진행 중이야. 그리고 400회 연속 뽑기도 준대. 무려 400회 연속 뽑기라고.
우와, 400회?
선물 교환 코드 SOS1234로 신규 유저 패키지도 얻을 수 있고.
아싸!
또
지금 다운로드.
Krieg ist doch ein Schachspiel. Krieg ist doch ein Schachspiel.
And on land, the latest tanks also in massed array they wheel on the parade ground, presenting an impressive spectacle for the thousands of proud spectators. In this vivid camera impression of the great Nancy Valley, you can judge for yourself the extent of German rearmament. European armies of today present an awe-inspiring spectacle. It almost seems as if the lessons of the World War were forgotten. Germany's weapons are the last word in scientific war material. Her air force is powerful and efficient, and her guns are equally modern. After the parade, realistic confrontation, and every unit plays its part. Cavalry, artillery, infantry, tanks, and...
Krieg ist doch ein Schachspiel.
Kommandant, ein berühmter Truppenführer wird bald ankommen. Es scheint, als hätte sich euer Ruf in ganz Europa verbreitet. Hier werden sich noch stärkere Offiziere versammeln.
Not our place to express any particular view, but merely to draw attention to the facts as depicted in the film. It's evident that the Nazis are masters in the art of stagecraft. The military position of free war Germany is obviously... Perhaps the most striking feature of the whole Party Day rally is this flight formation of the Nazi emblem, the swastika by Hitler's cracked banner. Lightning victory in Germany's newly established. The consequent rise of the military spirit which now apparently permeates the nation. We find its fullest expression during the Nazi Party Day parade at Nuremberg, where movie tones cameras record graphic studies of the grandiose military demonstration.
For many years, a tradition of youth organizations. There were many wide and varied groups, some being linked with a particular church or political party, others were non-sectarian. Most of these groups shared a common theme of comradeship and multiculturalism. Over the years, some of these groups united and flourished, while others simply faded away, largely due to the character of their leaders. But there can be no doubt whatsoever that the largest and by far the most successful of these organizations was the Hitler Youth. The Nazi Party had its roots in the infant German World War, which Adolf Hitler reluctantly joined in 1990.
정식 라이센스를 받은 반지의 제왕 전략 모바일 게임이 출시됐습니다. 8개의 세력 중 하나를 선택해서 악의 세력 모르도르에 합세할 수도 있습니다. 중간계 설정에 따라 모르도르는 수적으로 우세하지만 자원이 부족하기 때문에 살아남으려면 세력을 넓혀야만 합니다. 원작 소설처럼 첫 전투는 곤도르 수도를 향한 공성전입니다. 사우론이 되어 병사를 지휘하고 헬렌노르 평원 전투를 직접 경험하세요.
He was so enthusiastic that by 1922, a youth league of the NSDAP had been formed under his leadership. Membership was for Aryan Germans aged 14 to 18 years. Foreigners and Jews were not to be admitted. However, the SA, which was the NSDAP's private army, thought it necessary to exercise strict control over the new youth organization to ensure its loyalty to the Führer and the correct National Socialist principle. And above all, to ensure it did not become too divided into two ages, 14 to 16 years and 16 to 18 years, the latter becoming known as the Jungsturm Adolf Hitler. However, it soon became apparent to the SA that the latter was perhaps a little too keen, and it appeared that his leadership was steering the youth movement on a more independent course. Eventually, after being accused of financial irregularities, he was replaced by a new leader, Kurt Gruber. In 1926, the movement was renamed the Hitler Youth, with Gruber appointed as Reichsführer. By now, there were many prominent members in the movement, and one in particular was to become a threat to Gruber's leadership. Baldur von Schirach was the Reichsführer of the NS Student League and an active member of the SA. Schirach was well liked by an army captain, Ernst Röhm, whom Hitler had appointed by special request to take over the leader of the SA, thus in turn being responsible for the subjugation of the Hitler Youth. Both Röhm and Schirach plotted against Gruber, and in 1931, again on Hitler's direct instruction, was dismissed. Schirach took on a new role and a new title, which gave him total control under the SA of all youth matters. 8 months later, he took over direct control of the Hitler Youth. He enlisted many new and more senior leaders into the organization. One of these was Ritter von Schreien, a World War I air race known as the Black Knight, holder of the Blue Medals. In 1933, parties soon vanished. The remaining non-political youth groups, under immense pressure, soon followed suit. Hitler ordered the Hitler Youth to seize all records from the Reichscommittee of German Youth Associations. Von Schirach was to replace the committee by his own German Youth Leaders' Council. He was again given a new title. He became leader of the German Reich. Now all German youth came within his authority, and all of the remaining organizations were swallowed up by the Hitler Youth. There was one more episode which was to finally consolidate the power of the Hitler Youth. In June 1934, in the belief that the SA was plotting a revolt against his authority, Hitler had most of its leaders executed, including his friend, Captain Röhm. It was the SS, Hitler's private bodyguard, that carried out the assassinations. The Hitler Youth soon associated itself with the already powerful SS. Both Hitler and von Schirach believed that the youth movement represented the Nazi of the future, and from its ranks would rise the future leaders.
At the same time, he boasts that Germany has secretly been building submarines. He even pretends that this declaration shows his good faith. Further to show his good faith, he signs in June 1935 the London Naval Agreement. He agrees to limit Germany's battleships to 35% of Britain's tonnage. But secretly he goes on building above this figure. At the same time, he sneeringly offers to rejoin the League at a price, the return of Germany's lost colonies. Simultaneously, he makes other preparations. Great new motor roads are opened all over Germany.
He boasts of this sign that he is planning for peace. But the roads don't run to places where the people would want to go, even if they had cars to drive along them. They are military roads leading to possible battlefields.
By March 1936, he has conveniently forgotten all he ever said about having no territorial claims. He imagines that the war between Italy and Abyssinia and the problems of sanctions have caused a rift between Britain and her ally France.
This, he thinks, is his opportunity. Still screaming that all he wants is peace,
he seeks to widen the imaginary rift by offering a 25-year peace pact to France. A clever plan to separate her from Britain, but it fails. France rejects the offer.
Then Hitler shows himself in his true colors. He marches his troops into the Rhineland in defiance of the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. He gambles on the chance that France and Britain really do want peace, and don't just talk about it.
But he still fails to separate Britain and France. But when he triumphantly visits the factory towns of the Rhineland...
Hier spricht der Kommandant. Wir konnten den feindlichen Angriff aufhalten. Doch unsere gesamten Luftstreitkräfte wurden ausgeschaltet. Wir benötigen augenblicklich Ressourcen zur Reparatur der Flugzeuge. Verstanden, Kommandant. Wir werden so schnell wie möglich Unterstützung schicken. Ihr müsst durchhalten.
pouring out guns and yet more guns. The conscript army grows larger and larger.
On Hitler's 47th birthday, the raid of Berlin on stage deliberately to show Britain Germany's victory.
But he is not ready to use it yet. Affairs in Spain provide him with a good opportunity to strike indirectly at Britain's empire. He agrees to a policy of non-intervention.
But he sends guns and troops, tanks and planes to bomb open towns, murder women and children. At the beginning of May, Hitler leaves Berlin to pay another visit to Italy.
The world remembers the last meeting between Hitler and Mussolini, and now waits, wondering what this one portends.
Display of laying a wreath on the Italian War Memorial, but in his hypocritical mind, he's already planning the fate of Czechoslovakia, making a mockery of this ceremony.
Because he means war when he speaks of peace, he rushes ahead to building of the Siegfried Line. As usual, he has the he suggests that they fix Germany's frontiers forever. In fact, he is encircling France. His agreement with Italy, his foothold in Spain, and now the Siegfried Line to complete the plan to prevent France giving help to Czechoslovakia when he is ready to strike.
France replies by manning her Maginot Line. He learned her lesson in the fate of Austria, not to trust in Italy.
Now it is obvious the plan must come. France calls up her reserve.
Guarantees are given to the
The French army and air force move to battle.
Krieg ist doch ein Schachspiel.
When and where will the war break out?
Germany hurries forward her liberation.
Preparing the states over Berlin for the army.
Brandenburg and East Prussia. Up to this moment, one of the most important cogs in Germany's war machine. The specific target on which this lead bombardier is lining up his bomb site is the Focke-Wulf 190 plant. Up to this instant, this aircraft factory has been accounting for almost 50% of Germany's total FW-190 fighter assembly. Tons of bombs rain down in a tight pattern of destruction. This, remember, is no area attack. It is an assault on one single target, and any bomb that falls outside that target has failed to achieve its purpose. The assembly of fighters in this Focke-Wulf factory has come to a sudden and violent end. To many, the bombing of Germany probably seems to be nothing more than a series of capricious events. One attack unconnected in any way with the one that preceded it or the one that will follow. It is easy for the average citizen to envision because of maps like these, which make the positions of the contesting forces quite clear. It is hard to geographically the progress of a bombing program. Yet there is a real line in this battle of Germany. Not a geographical front, but an industrial one. In the British Isles, there are the Allied air forces. On the European continent, we have Regensburg, Marienburg, Bremen, Oschersleben, Warnemünde, and Kassel. These are the major German fighter assembly plants, and as such are actually the center of Germany's industrial defense line. However, these are only the places where the aircraft is assembled into the finished fighting machine. Component parts for German fighters are made at a real line in this battle, not a geographical front, but an industrial one. There are the Allied air forces. On the European continent, Marienburg, Bremen, Oschersleben, Warnemünde, and Kassel. These are the major German fighter assembly plants, and as such are actually the center of Germany's industrial defense line. However, these are only the places where the aircraft is assembled into the finished fighting machine. Component parts for German fighters are made at the Weser-Flugzeugbau Works at Bremen, the great Hedderheim propeller works near Frankfurt, the aircraft tire factory at Hanover, the CAM ball bearing plant at Paris, and the ball bearing factories at Schweinfurt. The European assembly plant can't operate if other plants aren't building the parts from which the enemy planes will be assembled. 29% of all German synthetic rubber production, and is in fact responsible for 18% of our entire supply of rubber, natural or synthetic. At Bochum, there's a great steel plant producing high-grade aviation steel. Roya, up in Norway, is a great producer of aluminum and magnesium, metals which figure importantly in aircraft production. At Hahn, there are great railroad marshalling yards, having a capacity of 10,000 freight cars a day. Much of the tonnage handled here is closely connected with the manufacture, assembly, maintenance, and repair of enemy aircraft. And so it is all over Germany and other countries. Everywhere there are plants and installations that contribute directly or indirectly to the making of German aircraft. Industrial bastions which must first be ripped apart before the enemy's armies can be destroyed. The smashing blows by the Allied air forces at Hulst, Roya, Regensburg, Schweinfurt, Hanover, and Frankfurt are the result of piercing the German industrial line to the extent of 37.5% of estimated single-engine fighter production in September of 1943. If this is the eventual sense of force. But these attacks have had other far-reaching effects. For instance, in January of 1943, just when the 8th Bomber Command had started daylight attacks against Germany proper, 42% of the German fighter strength was concentrated in Western Europe, 33% of it in Russia, and 25% in the Mediterranean area. After 10 months of American bombers appearing by day over Germany, the figures line up more like this. On the Russian front, 19%. In the Mediterranean area, 12%. And in Western Europe, 69%. Germany thought it was urgent enough to withdraw fighters from two important theaters, all in a vain attempt to save their crumbling industry from the grim, destructive blows of the British American bomber offensive. That is why the Battle of Germany is being fought. Now we come to the problem, how are the targets selected? And what enormous effort is necessary for the 10 or 15 minutes that our air task forces will be over any given target. The daylight bombing offensive against Germany is the responsibility of the 8th Air Force.